As a pro seed finder, I find a lot of pretty crazy things. Stunning biome combinations, wild terrain. Over the years, I've amassed quite an arsenal of unique finds, and today, I'll be going over some of the rarest with you. These are the top 10 rarest seeds I've ever found, so strap in because the seed at number 1 might seriously blow your socks off. For the sake of not covering seeds multiple times, seeds from my previous videos will be left out. My All Biomes and Structures and Under 1000 Blocks seed, as well as my Mushroom Island world records. Those would place near the top of this list. If you want to check those out, links are in the description, and without further ado, here's the top 10. Starting off this list is a find on the tamer side, and some of you may not believe that this is tame when I show it to you. Check out the biome map for this seed. Some of you will probably already realize that something is very wrong here. This is a seed for versions 1.13 to 1.17 for Java, and in this version, very rarely, a mushroom island can get entirely swallowed by land, which is what you see here. This is already an extremely rare find, but the very astute among you may realize that the biome to the southeast of this mushroom island is none other than Modified Jungle Edge, the rarest biome to ever grace the game. Now, I already covered most of the details of this biome in my Rarest Biomes video, which you can check out right after this one if you so please. But to make a long story short, a random coordinate in a whirl in 1.13 to 1.17 has under a 1 in 300,000 chance to generate this biome. So how on earth did I find this seed? Well, as with most of my seeds, I found it using Biomes Viewer, and this one was actually found by total accident, which is why it placed so low. I was only looking for a mushroom island bordering a modified jungle edge, but I got way more than I bargained for with this seed, and the mushroom island was completely swallowed. This seed was definitely a rare find, but since it was a total accident, I can't put it higher than 10th. Now, let's move on to a seed with an absolutely stunning biome map. This seed, for Java and Bedrock 1.20 and up, spawns you right on the edge of a cherry grove. This cherry grove is special, however, as it lies right in the center of a massive field of ice spikes that completely surround it. These two are rare and beautiful biomes, but how did they generate so close to each other? Well, as it turns out, ice spikes and cherry grove are more similar than you might think. They both require low humidity and positive weirdness, 2 of the 5 noise maps controlling the biome generation of the game. Additionally, cherry grove requires low erosion, which ice spikes can generate in with no problem. You may think that temperature would be an issue here. Can't cherry grove only generate in warm biomes? Ice spikes generates in the coldest temperature zone, but luckily for us, cherry grove can generate in the zone right above it. So now we know they can generate next to each other, but how do you get one to engulf the other? This is the hardest part of the search. Temperature usually has a very wide gradient, so getting it to rise just enough to make a teeny tiny patch of cherry grove is very hard. With some climate finesse though, it is possible, but very rare, putting this seed at 9th on our list. Speaking of climate finesse, look at this seed. A woodland mansion inside an old-growth pine taiga. How in the name of Notch does that happen? Well, the secret lies in the seed map. The woodland mansion does spawn in a dark forest like normal, it's just really small. This is a supercharged version of my previous cherry grove seed. Very high humidity lets both the pine taiga and dark forest generate, but a very slight bump in temperature right around the woodland mansion allows a tiny dark forest to spawn, letting the mansion generate. This one is especially wild because this search only ever gave me a few results, and every one of them had a ton of dark forest around the mansion. But with this seed, you may be hard-pressed to ever realize there was a dark forest here at all, save for looking at a seed map or the F3 menu. This seed works for version 1.18 and up, and only on Java. Truly a puzzling seed, and exceptionally rare at that. Because this one also requires the rarest structure in the game to spawn, I'm putting this one right above the previous, at 8th place. For the average survival player, this seed may just be the best on this list for you. This is the smallest continent ever found with all biomes and all structures. This seed came from an absolutely massive and absurdly complex Biome session designed to find the smallest all biomes continent. This session is so complex and has so many branching paths that it actually fully maxes out the condition count in Biomes, sitting at 99 conditions, the exact limit for a session. You may be wondering, why didn't the smallest continent with all biomes get on this list instead of this seed? Well, that record doesn't actually belong to me anymore. It belongs to a great seed finder and friend of mine named Achievers, who's been searching for interesting biome extremes for quite some time. This, however, is the smallest continent with every biome and structure, sitting at about 9.6 million blocks squared and just over 4,000 blocks long. Perfect for a survival world with friends on your own little continent you call home. Unfortunately, due to the lack of Java and Bedrock structure parity, this continent doesn't have all structures on Bedrock, but the biomes will still just work just fine. Considering the insane session and lots of search time required to find it, I think the seed sits comfortably at 7th place. From the smallest continents in the game to the biggest, this continent is an absolute monster in terms of size. For large biomes, which is sadly Java exclusive, and on versions 1.18 and up, this continent clocks in at over 3 billion blocks squared. This is the biggest large biomes continent ever found, stretching over 106,000 blocks long. If every block is a square meter, this thing would be bigger than the real-life country of Luxembourg and would take about 7 hours to walk across in-game, assuming a perfectly straight, flat path. This thing has every biome and structure in the game many, many times over. It even has 31 woodland mansions. Talk about an overachiever. Continents of this size are so rare because the Minecraft world is mostly land. Oceans can't form seas as big as they used to in versions like 1.6, and as such, it's hard to get enough ocean in one place to corral such a large landmass inside. I had to find this seed using a custom program, because sometimes even QBiomes just doesn't cut it. It took me about 3 days straight of searching to find it on my beefy computer, and I think it deserves 6th place. For those who aren't fans of large biomes, or for those who don't own the Java edition of the game, don't fear, I have another large continent record that works in standard world gen for Java and Bedrock in 1.18+. It's a bit of a hike from spawn, about 9,000 blocks, but once you get there, you'll never need to leave again. Just like the large biomes continent, this one has every single biome and structure in the game, and is nearly 25,000 blocks long. Luckily, its sheer size nets at all structures on Bedrock too. This one was found using the same program as the last, but I had to run it for much longer, and turning up this beauty took nearly a week of search time, making it quite a bit rarer than the last and putting it right in 5th place. This seed is where things get a little weird. Literally. Take a look at this Cherry Island seed for 1.20+, Java and Bedrock. Pretty picturesque, right? Now let me tell you all the reasons it shouldn't even exist. Cherry groves are a finicky biome. They're quite rare, and annoyingly for fans of both islands and cute pink biomes, they don't like to spawn near the ocean. This is because cherry groves are a plateau biome. They require low erosion and need a continentalness higher than 0.03. Now, oceans start at negative 0.19 continentalness, so a cherry grove won't ever generate within about 50 blocks of an ocean. But this lake didn't look like an ocean anyways. Could it be a river doing a tiny loop? These are common in 1.18 versions, but alas, cherry groves don't spawn near rivers either. So how did this happen? The key is to understand Minecraft's most cryptic noise map, weirdness. Weirdness helps control the rivers and valleys of Minecraft's world, but it has a dark side. When weirdness gets too high or too low, it starts making huge lakes. In some versions of the game, extreme examples of these biome lakes can even turn into sinkholes. This is a more modest example, and since Cherry Grove generates just fine at high weirdness, this all tracks, except for one minor issue. How did I find a biome lake with an island in the middle? The key piece of knowledge needed to understand this is that high weirdness doesn't always make a biome lake. In very low erosion, corresponding to mountainous areas, they instead form mountain bowls. But this isn't a mountain bowl, so what is going on? I meticulously tuned my QBiome session to find not only a biome lake in a cherry grove, but one that had a tiny dip in erosion values at the exact center of this biome lake. This forces weirdness to stop making a lake and instead make a mountain bowl. Since this erosion dip is so small and is placed right in the center of the lake, this tiny area is instructed to make a mountain bowl even though everything around it is water, making a small, picturesque island. The required values for this are very finicky. An erosion dip even slightly too low or wide will cause the island to form a sad peninsula. Due to the obscure technology and luck required, this seed goes in 4th place. But what happens when you do the reverse of this, a spike in erosion inside a mountain bowl to form a sinkhole? Well, what you get is something like this seed right here, the first ever sinkhole found inside a full mountain ring by yours truly. This is essentially the same tech as before, but everything is flipped on its head. Now the surrounding area is low erosion, with the super high weirdness value forming a mountain bowl, and a spike in erosion near the center causes a sinkhole to form, on all Bedrock versions past 1.18, and Java versions between 1.18 and 1.19.2. This one is significantly rarer than the last. The weirdness values needed to make a full sinkhole compared to just a small lake are far more extreme, and sinkholes are much harder to keep contained without them breaking the thin mountain ring. This seed is incredibly rare, sitting at 3rd place. Special thanks to Meox for letting me run the session that found this seed on her PC, as her PC did eventually find this seed. Next up is a blast from the past. I started playing Minecraft on the legacy console version of the game, and when the code was leaked a few months back, I wanted to get in on seed finding for it. It turns out the legacy console leak uses about the same world gen as Minecraft 1.6, with a few small differences. I had always loved finding water worlds on PlayStation 3 edition, and so I wanted to take this to the extreme, a legacy console world with no land. This has a lot of challenges to overcome. First, there can't be any land biomes in the 864 by 864 block square encompassing the game world. Next, you have to make sure no mushroom islands spawn in that area either. This is rather challenging. Mushroom islands are much more common in Legacy Console than in Java. They have a 1 in 100 chance to spawn in every 32 by 32 block square in the world that is ocean. Now, 1 in 100 may not sound common, but the world contains 729 of these 32 block mushroom tiles. The odds of no mushroom island in an all-ocean world are only about 1 in 1400. Then, on top of all of this, you have to have even more great luck. Those of you who've played older versions of the game know that between 1.0 and 1.17, islands in the ocean are fairly common. This happens when the seafloor rises above the ocean, and making sure the entire seafloor stays put in the whole world was going to be a nightmare. I set up a program to filter for seeds that keep mushroom islands and other land biomes at bay, and I had to use a spiral iterator setup in QBiomes in an attempt to filter out height. QBiomes can't sample height perfectly, so I had to look through quite a few of these results before I found one with no seafloor islands. But after at least a week of searching, I finally found one. A total water world. Trying to survive here is quite the task. The only wood in the entire world is under the seafloor in mine shafts, and good luck getting down there. This is a seriously hardcore challenge seed, and was a seriously hardcore challenge to find, sitting at number 2 on our list. Here it is, the rarest seed on the list. What on earth could it be? An utterly huge biome? Some crazy structure combo? Well, not exactly. This seed was the pinnacle of my laziness as a Minecraft player. As a player, I love to build, but I really don't love to travel thousands of blocks to find all the wood types I want. As I was searching one day to find some cherry mountain rings for a new survival world, a thought hit me. How many wood types can you find in a single mountain ring? The idea was great in theory. You could get every wood to build with without ever leaving your mountain fortress, but how many of them can you actually get inside there? The answer is a lot more than you'd think, and by that, I mean all of them. The strategy is as follows. You need a mountain bowl to sit on top of 2 noise gradients, one that has temperature go from T2, the normal temperate zone, to T3, the lukewarm zone with savannas and jungles. Then, perpendicular to this, you need a humidity gradient ranging all the way from the lowest values for wood types like cherry and acacia to the highest for wood types like bamboo, jungle, pale oak, and dark oak. On top of all of this, it would have to be in a positive weirdness mountain circle, which means a super high weirdness value in a low erosion region. And it would have to sit near a coast so dark forest could take over for pale garden nearer to the coastline. Pale oak would generate in a pale garden, near the high humidity, cooler half of this circle, away from the coast. Towards the coast, dark forest takes over, giving dark oak, oak, and birch. Groves will line this region extensively near the mountain slopes, providing ample spruce wood. On the warm half of this high humidity area, a jungle would provide both jungle and bamboo. In the low humidity areas, cherry would generate in the cool half and acacia in the warm half. In theory, this is possible. In practice, this is a nightmare to find. It was a hard-to-execute plan. So many climates had to overlap in so many ways to get this right. But the real issue here is mangrove wood. This can only generate in the mangrove swamp, and since mangrove cannot generate anywhere close to mountains, I was afraid my hopes were dashed. Until I remembered a weird quirk about a seemingly unrelated structure, trial chambers. See, trial chambers have a 1/3 chance to generate a tree at their entrance, and a further 1/3 chance makes this tree a mangrove. So now, on top of all of those climate requirements, I needed a trial chamber under the mountain circle, and for that chamber to roll a 1 in 9 chance to spawn a mangrove tree. Was this even possible? I set to making a session to find out. It took a lot of trial and error. Getting climates to align properly here was nearly impossible. Every single climate needed to contribute in one way or another. I finally got my session to a point where it was churning out seeds with all wood types, to be checked further for trial chambers. These seeds came slowly but surely, and it took nearly 700 of these failed results to find a trial chamber with a mangrove tree, but I did it. 250 billion seeds, insane luck, and a crazy QBiome session to boot. This is an unbelievably rare seeds, and definitely deserves the #1 spot in this video. And those were the top 10 rarest seeds I've ever found, minus some of the seeds I've covered in previous videos, like my large mushroom island seeds. Some of them were pure luck, some of them took hours of search time, but all of them are crazy and unique in their own ways. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and comment any more video suggestions you have. I'll be making a new poll soon with some of the top suggestions from this video and my next one. Enjoy the seeds, goodbye, and may you have a wonderful day.